We're going to start our question and answer period with our advisors. Charlotte first, and then hopefully we can get a question from Cynthia.
Well done, Miss Thane. Congratulations on completing such an immense topic. I have just one question for you. I know you're very creative, but what's your favorite medium to use in art?
Well, each modality or medium can really benefit different people in different ways. But for me personally, I really like spontaneous painting. And that's because, first off, I really like painting. And the spontaneous aspect really helped me, and it was very educational in just being spontaneous and not really worrying about what you're going to create, and just the process, which was really helpful.
Lovely. Now we're going to try to get Cynthia to come through on my phone to a microphone to ask her questions. All right, let's try.
Okay, can you hear me, Charlotte?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, great job, Olivia. Just great. You're so articulate and give a beautiful presentation. I have two questions. The first question is, we know the music is an important part, and I'm just curious, since you really enjoy the painting, what is the music that you find is the most effective, whether for your own painting or when you're facilitating for someone else? What genre of music do you find the most effective?
I would say kind of like relaxing, like meditative music, because it's not so like harsh as other genres. And it really helps to inspire the participants when they're creating their art. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. And the other question I have is, how has this year of immersing in this influenced you in terms of what you may want to do, or at least a greater interest if you know?
Well, I think this year has really helped me learn how to first off be spontaneous and just not really worry so much about stuff and the process of things. So I think, even though I might not be an art therapist, as I said in my paper, I think that this could lead me onto a similar career involving art. So yeah.
Beautiful. Extremely well done.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Lovely job, Olivia. Thank you. Can you explain what the significance is? You mentioned a bunch of times in your presentation of using your left hand. Can you explain what that's all about?
Yes. Well, the left hand, basically it connects to the right side of your brain, so it kind of like crisscrosses. And the right side is in charge of things like memories and more creative things than the left side, which is more mathematical. Yeah. So it just like.
And so if you're right-handed, what's the process? Are you supposed to use your left hand, or how to?
Yes.
So you
You
have
still
to
have to use your left
restrict
hand.
yourself from trying to use your dominant hand.
Yes.
And why?
Because then it wouldn't work. So it needs to be the left hand. Yeah.
I have a question for you that should probably be coming from Adrian. How do you, the art teacher, how do you get students, anyone, to not be critical of their own art and do it spontaneously, expressively, without the anxiety that you saw in some of the participants about not being good enough?
Well, I feel like it is really important to not talk throughout the process, because when talking, you often judge other people's work or yourself, like downgrading yourself kind of. And just like being calm and just being in your own world and being focused on your art is really important.
Good. I'd like to talk to you students. How many of you listen to music when you work? Okay, if your hand's up, can you tell me what kind of music you like to listen to? Because Olivia mentioned that she liked to listen to meditative music. If anyone has something else to contribute, I'd like to hear it.
Queen.
And any reason why?
'Cause I like it.
Does it help you?
Yes.
Why?
It really depends on what I'm working on. Like if I'm writing a sad story, I usually listen to like sadder songs. But if I'm writing something upbeat, or if I'm drawing or painting something more colorful, I tend, without thinking, to just put on some like really fun music that my family gets mad at me because it's so loud. But just, yeah.
Any more questions? We're going to go to Ursula here.
Very well done. You've given a lot of people the opportunity to go through art therapy, and how do you feel like you've changed through that?
As I said before, I think that I've gotten a lot better at being spontaneous with my art. And like beforehand, I used to have a picture of reference to like if I was like sketching or something. And now I feel like I can just paint without having a visual image in my brain beforehand.
Excellent job, Ms. Thane. Congratulations. How does one access art therapy? And are there programs in elementary schools or high schools for students that are getting overstressed? How would they access that?
Well, you can sign up to some. You can like search them on the internet. And I think in larger schools, they might have different facilities to go to art therapy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ms. Thane. That was very interesting to hear about, not a topic that I personally have too much experience in. So that leads me to my question, somewhat related to the previous one. But in a practical sense, if someone is interested in pursuing some art therapy, is it much like if they had needed physiotherapy or if they had some other need, is art therapy something that is accepted and insurable? Like, can you access it and get funding for it? Do you get, what are the means to access it, and is it similar in that sense of that when people want help in different aspects of their life, and art therapy represents their interests, can they, how does it work in a practical sense? Like, do you go to a clinic? Do you go to somebody's house? Is it formal, like going to a, yeah, is it clinical that way, or what does it look like?
Well, for me, I was introduced to it because of my mother and her music therapy. So I think you could sign up for it. You could like hear of it from like a friend, but it is more of like an art class than maybe physio or something, including the therapy aspect.
Ms. Thane, this is a great presentation. I have a question about the word therapy, and so it's called art therapy. You listed off a whole bunch of good things that can happen by doing this. When I hear therapy, I think, oh, there's something wrong, we need to fix you, and we're going to give you therapy, right? So, but I was trying to think of whether that's the right word, because, so here's a list of other words. So my question's going to be, I got two questions, but this question's going to be, is there another word that captures what it's about better than the word therapy? So for example, there's art empowerment, or art actualization, or art self-realization, or art activation. I don't know. Is there a better word than therapy?
It is expressive arts. You don't have to say the therapy at the end.
Expressive arts.
Yes.
So you can express. And so that was kind of my questions. What's the goal? And you answered my question. You said, well, you can self-expression. You mentioned when you were working with the students, they kind of were anxious at first and then they lost their anxiety. So is that the goal? Is that they're supposed to, if you do enough of this art expression stuff, that you lose your anxiety? Is that the idea?
Well, part of it, yes. It helps with anxiety and just mostly focuses on self-exploration.
Okay.
And throughout the sessions, you just get better and better at it and more relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Second question, which is actually third question, but never mind. What those pictures over there? What are they? Are they from students? Are they from you? And are they supposed to tell us what the person's thinking in their head, or what are they?
Well, yes, these are the paintings from my sessions. I'm not gonna like name whose they are because I've been requested not to. But as you can see in some of the more like vibrant paintings and more like the pink one over there, it's kind of violent in a sense, but it's also just like very spontaneous, and each of these paintings can really just identify what the participant is feeling at that time and in their future.
So are we meant to infer, looking at those paintings, that, oh, some people are having a good day and some people aren't having such a good day? Is that you supposed to do that? Or?
Kind of, in a way. The therapist just talks to the participant about the piece because they can kind of like point out certain aspects of it and connect it to the participant's past or present or what they're feeling. So even if you may not see it like looking at these, a therapist would be able to identify some of the concepts and like parts of the participant's life that they're struggling with.
Beautifully done, Ms. Thane. Thank you so much. I have a question that goes back to the elder Ms. Thane's question. If you are left-handed already, what happens? Do you then use your right hand, or?
No, you keep using your left hand because it connects to the right side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And second question, do you feel that through this process you've gotten a little bit more, are you able to look into another person's piece of art a little more thoughtfully to know kind of what's behind? Yeah?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Ms. Thane, I'm curious. As children, particularly in the very young, art is something that they seemingly almost already know how to do, and they do an awful lot of it. Adults, on the other hand, do not do as much art. They tend to be hypercritical. Do you think there's perhaps a correlation, and perhaps after completing this project, what's your opinion if adults did more creative, expressive art as like a normal thing? Do you think we'd all be a lot calmer?
Yeah, I think
have less baggage, perhaps?
Yeah, I think that it is really important for children to do it, but also adults, because they really need it for like de-stressing because they work. And I think it's really important for just everyone to maybe take a session or a few to just figure it all out and help themselves. Yes.
Wonderful job, Ms. Thane. Thank you very much. I was wondering if you could address the aspect, the therapy aspect that Dr. Spear was alluding to, in how art therapy can help one's unconscious thoughts, feelings, or drives that can't be expressed verbally or consciously, but can be expressed on paper, how the therapist helps to bridge those images to help bring awareness and consciousness to the person and helps them integrate that. Can you address that process?
Yes. Well, even though the participant may not understand why they're painting the things that they're painting, it reflects from their unconscious, like the things that are happening in their past and what they're going through right now gets reflected on their art, and they usually don't know it at the start until they go through the talking part of the session with the therapist.
Fantastic job, Ms. Thane. As your former art teacher, I suppose, I was very impressed. I was realizing there are things that we have done that you did, some things I'd like to do that you did. A couple questions. One, you said the sand mandala, they wash it away. Can that cause a lot of anxiety? I've had kids, I asked them to rip up their drawing, and I got some flack for that. I still ask them to do it. What's the reasoning there?
Well, when you're painting, you're trying not to have such an emotional attachment to like the aesthetic value of the painting. So by just brushing the sand away or ripping it up, you're kind of letting it go and move on from it.
C, grade 6, all right. My other question is, if I'm implementing some of the things you did, is there a danger that something terrible will come out in my class? I ask them to do some spontaneous painting and suddenly they're dealing with some trauma. Is that something I have to worry about?
Yes.
That wasn't the answer I was looking for. And finally, Miss Thane, would you be willing to come back and help me with my art class?
Yes, I would love to do that.
Thank you.
We're going to end questions there, and what I would love to, what I want to say is how great this school could be if we had therapy dogs everywhere, if we did art therapy at lunch, and had a heroism project in all of our classes. So. Thank you to our grade 9 students for making this a better place. So a huge round of applause for Olivia, Miss Thane.